For analysis, I'm joined now from Kiev by Peter Zalmayev. He is the director of the Eurasia Democracy Initiative, which promotes democracy in post-communist states. Thank you so much for being with us.
Hi.
So President Biden took another shot at diplomacy with a phone call to Vladimir Putin vowing swift and severe costs if he invades Ukraine. 24 hours later, he spoke to Ukraine's president, and now Germany's chancellor will visit Kiev and Moscow for another round of shuttle diplomacy. But that window is fast closing. How likely is it that diplomacy and deterrence will resolve this in the end?
Well, there's hope that it will. Obviously, I'm based here in Kiev, and I have determined to stay here in Kiev as a Ukrainian American, if need be, to fight for my country. I just want to refer to a document that came out by the Center for Defense Strategies, which is led by former Defense Minister Mr. Zahorodnyuk, which is very respected. It does quote such stark figures such as 87 battalion tactical groups, which is about 147,000 personnel, service personnel that are massed around Ukraine's borders, etc. But it does make clear that there are no signs that there are additional reinforcements needed for a large-scale offensive are in the offing. I'm quoting from the report. At present, the accumulated forces on the border are insufficient for a large-scale operation aimed at capturing all or a significant part of Ukraine. Mind you, Rosemary, when the Soviet Union invaded Czechoslovakia in 1968, it took 500,000 troops to quell an uprising in a country that several times the size of Ukraine that had no determination to really fight militarily. Think about the size, a country the size of Ukraine and what it would take Vladimir Putin, the expenditure and blood and treasure that it would take. So which leads me to believe that Vladimir Putin will continue to skirt on the edge of the probable, will continue to, mix up the cards for Western powers. There may be limited incursions, either from the south, from the north, or from the east of Ukraine. But Vladimir Putin will not be doing anything that will unify the West in an overwhelming response, whether that be by sanctions or additional and large additional supplies of weapons to Ukraine. Vladimir Putin will not stomach hundreds and thousands of coffins of dead Russian soldiers coming from a country that Vladimir Putin's propaganda machinery claims is part of the Russian nation. They do not consider Ukrainians as very separate from Russians. So this is going to be very, very bad PR, and Vladimir Putin is probably too smart for that.
So what do you think Putin's intent is here then?
Putin's intent is still obviously to keep Ukraine on a short leash. If he can do it through diplomacy, coercive diplomacy, if he can use personalities such as Mr. Scholz or French President Macron to force Ukraine to abide by the Minsk agreements, that's all for the better for him. Minsk agreement essentially is subjugation of Ukraine by other means. It is designed to put these breakaway republics of Donetsk and Luhansk back into the body politic of Ukraine in Kiev, so that it effectively functions as a block on Ukraine's further movement towards the West or NATO. And that will remain Vladimir Putin's goal. And so we may be just digging in for a long haul here. This may just be the beginning.
So we are seeing an information war play out right now, with the US revealing sensitive military intelligence in an effort to remove the element of surprise from any military move that Putin might make. But an autocracy like Russia is better equipped to play this game than a democracy that needs to follow the rules. So what do you expect the outcome of this information war will be, given Biden's national security advisor has said that the US is publicizing intelligence on Russia to stop a war, not to start one? But there are still a lot of people saying, and they're asking questions, they're saying there's not enough evidence with what's being said on both sides here.
Well, that's precisely Biden's line, the megaphone diplomacy that is designed to prevent Russia from going any further. We have exposed you. We know what you're doing. You are on notice. And Vladimir Putin, keep in mind, the Russian side continues to say that it has no plans to invade Ukraine. So while there's some justification to Biden's megaphone diplomacy, he can claim that he unified the West in a very strong response, and even Germany now is on board with a potential disconnection of the Nord Stream 2 project should Russia invade. I think that we have to go back a few months ago and the buildup that your previous correspondent mentioned in the spring to see that this should have been done much earlier. And Joe Biden should have started supplying weapons to Ukraine much earlier. Putin saw America's weakness after this withdrawal from Afghanistan. And after that, Joe Biden turns around and gives the green light to Nord Stream 2, thinking that he's doing it for Chancellor Merkel, but essentially giving Vladimir Putin carte blanche. That it led to the crisis on the border with Belarus, with migrants, etc. So he really goaded Putin. He encouraged it. And now he's learning the tough way, that Vladimir Putin only respects strength.
Yeah. Peter Zalmayev, thank you so much for talking with us. We appreciate it.